Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Kind of feel like a microcosm of the entire season, encapsulated in two halves.
I don't know so much about the two halves. Last week was kind of like this. We didn't play good in the first half, and we played pretty good in the second half. It came down to last play, and we lost. I don't know. I keep trying to teach these guys how to finish. We talk about it all the time, being detailed about your job, being detailed. And I do think there was some, especially in the first half, guys were detailed about everything. They played with a lot of energy. I guess we haven't really been in a game where we've been up by so much. And, I was still trying to be aggressive with everything really that we were doing, and we didn't execute as well.
There it is. That is the joyous demeanor of a winning football coach. Right there.
Yeah.
He won. He won the game.
I don't know. I keep telling you guys how we should do our show. Sometimes.
Why don't you guys listen? Don't listen.
You guys don't listen to me. I tell you how to do the show every day. Next question.
Is that the most depressed you've ever seen a winning football coach watching the Vikings? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird.
Well, let's get into this. So this is a little bonus comments from YouTube episode here on Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment, presented in part by Surly Brewing Company and also TCL. TCL is one of the world's best-selling consumer electronics brands. They've got new TVs with the most entertainment and stunning resolution at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. I was watching that game on a TCL TV here. Wasn't the TV's fault, certainly, that they almost blew a 29-point lead.
That's a nice TV.
Mm-hmm.
Nice TV.
Don't kill the messenger.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, we go through on Mackie and Judd on Fridays. We go deep on Feedback Friday, and then once a week, usually you guys will jump into the YouTube comment section here. So let's start with Stoneweight 2018. What is with the continued false equivalence between Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins? One is a top 10 quarterback, and that's one is a top 10 quarterback. That's one of the only reasons that the Vikings have been in every game this season. The other is currently the worst head coach in the NFL, is an absolute albatross around the neck of the team, and is a complete detriment and obstacle to the team's success. So that's his comment. Is that a fair characterization of Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. No, it's not, because it's too weighted in an opinion towards one side. It's not a fair. Do I think Mike has done a good job? No. Do I think that Mike is not even close to being the defensive play schemer and caller that he used to be? Yes, I think he's lost that. But to just declare him the worst coach in the entire league, come on. Urban Meyer's in this league. Mike Zimmer's not the worst coach.
No.
I think that, again, I would urge this guy. So here's my platform. All right. If you're going to look at it that way, strip aside your biases, and I will too, and let's look at the faults in both of these people. So I feel like sometimes if you're trying to defend one thing, it's like, well, I'm just going to find the faults in Zimmer. Okay, that's fine. But Kirk has faults too. Do I think that Mike is the worst coach in the league? Absolutely not. Do I think he's probably fallen into like the bottom third or something? Could certainly discuss that. Do I think that Kirk is a top 10 QB in this league? On his best day, probably, but he's consistently just outside that. There is so much fault to go around here that I would urge people, quit defending anybody, because there's no reason to. It's not working. Look for the reasons why. If you want this team to do what the Mackie and Judd show and Purple Daily do, which is to win a Super Bowl, quit trying to defend individuals and think about what's best for the franchise. Yeah. That's what I would urge.
So I think as recently as maybe 3 years ago, I think Mike Zimmer was a top 10 coach. And yeah. I think you could have made the case in 2017 with his vision coming to life defensively, and then the way that the offense was doing exactly what it should, that he was like a borderline top 5 to 6 coach in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was legit, man. But the league evolves fast. Think about how many different quarterbacks with different skill sets have come in the league. Think about the offensive evolutions. I mean, Sean McVay wasn't a coach when Sean McVay was, I think, just coming in the league as a coach in 17 or something. So and then Matt LaFleur's and all these other offensive whiz kids that are coming in. So I think he's probably gone from top 7 or 8 in a 4-year span, and I don't think he's top half.
Okay, that's
I don't want to, but he's certainly not the worst coach in the NFL.
No,
but he's definitely closer to 23rd than he is to 5th. Mm-hmm. And then we'd have to sort out a list, and sometimes it's kind of hard to parse it apart. I think it's ludicrous to suggest that Kirk Cousins is one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Statistically, yes. He puts up numbers and touchdown to interception and completion percentage. I know PFF has him as a top 5 quarterback with their grades too, but when you start to factor in all of the intangible things that are sometimes don't show up on a stat sheet, right? And by the way, he has been, especially early in the season, better in late game situations than he had been in the first 3 years. He's not a foxhole guy, man. He's not a leader. He's not a foxhole guy. He wilts more often than not in primetime games against good opponents. Last night he was pretty garbage last night, and the rest of the team sort of carried him. So if you watch the rest of the league and Kirk Cousins within the context of all the other games you see on Red Zone Channel or primetime games, if you think that Kirk is the only thing that's preventing the Vikings from being a 3-14 disaster, I don't know what to tell you. You either don't watch enough football, you don't watch Justin Herbert, you don't watch Tom Brady, some of these other talented guys. You don't watch Kyler Murray or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen. He is not one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's somewhere between 11th and 16th. On his best days, certainly he can pop up. But if every quarterback is playing at their absolute best, it is ludicrous to suggest that he's one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the world. Sorry.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. That's perfectly fair. I think when a team is as disappointing as the Vikings are, there's no big need to defend certain people. There's just no why. What's the point? The fun about that debate is if the team is really good and you're like, I think Zimmer is a top 5 coach. No, it's Cousins. He's a top 5 QB. Those are the fun debates. What's fun about debating? We're trying to split hairs here with it's so and so's fault. It's so no, it's just everybody's fault. Blame them all. Yeah. That's fine. That's cool.
Dex, what about you? Where are you at with this, Cousins and Zimmer?
I mean, it's over. That's kind of how I look at it. To go back to the Zimmer top 10 coach thing, and then this is where I voiced this a little bit on Ventline of him being the best coach in my lifetime. That 2017, and even in parts of 2018, that was the only time as a Vikings fan where if the Vikings were on defense and it was 3rd down or if they needed to stop, you actually felt confident they were going to get the stop. Where during the Tice days, during the Childress days, even that fun run with Brett Favre, you just knew, all right, we're just going to go haymaker to haymaker. Whoever comes out with the last punch will win. Whereas Zimmer in that 2017 season, every time they were on defense was actually fun, right? It was oh my God, I'm not worried. They have to punt the ball. I'm not worried. They're going to get a stop. And now he hasn't been able to adjust to that. I agree. He's not the worst NFL coach in the league. There's probably a conversation that he's moved into the bottom half for sure. But Kirk, being a top 10 quarterback, I think he's fringe. He's a fringe top 10 quarterback. The number suggests he is a top 5 quarterback, but he's not to me. He's a fringe top 10 quarterback at best.
Mark Wills on the YouTube comment section. There's a couple here kind of in the same vein. I love how all the Ventline callers have the same pitiful expression on their faces. The frustration is palpable. And Scott Ash chimes in and says, I've been watching the Vikings since Fran Tarkenton on the Purple People Eaters team, and yet my wife asked me tonight why I wasn't excited about the Vikings playing, and I said, the Vikings have made me apathetic. Judd hit it. They are a collective of joyless human beings. JBD 621 says, if they had the killer mentality, they could have been up 36-0 and could have had Kellen Mond go in and get some game action. He probably wasn't active. He hasn't been all season, by the way. But that's the point. Run up the score and let guys like Mond come in and see how he handles the pressure of a regular season game. Now, again, he wasn't active last night, so if anyone came in, it would have been Sean Mannion. But that's a valid point. They do have the ability to run a score up on someone. And if Kellen Mond was in a position development-wise to be active as a backup, like maybe you get him some snaps and just kind of see, all right, let's drive the car here a little bit and see. So, but, they blew the lead and he wasn't active last night. So it's kind of a moot point.
The Vikings are like me when it comes to math at Benilde. They're in the remedial math class, okay? Like you're talking about calculus, right? Like we got a big lead. Let's increase that lead. Then we'll bring Mond in to take some snaps. It'll be great to get him experience. They are in the basic classes that I took, which was I a smart enough kid to be better? Absolutely. Did I try?
Maybe.
No, I didn't.
Maybe.
I love that note, but that note is assuming a level of proficiency and professionalism that the Vikings simply lack this season.
Yeah.
Like think about that. Kellen Mond comes in. Huh?
That dude is milk carton status right now. No one has any idea. There's been no write-ups, no reports.
I saw him last night. He's alive and well, which is the good news. But yeah,
right.
he and Wyatt Davis are both like, what happened to you guys? Like,
it's amazing, man.
Like, are you
and
guys
Kellen
okay?
Mond was never supposed to contribute to this year's team. Wyatt Davis was, especially when you start to get injuries and Bradbury starts to perform poorly, and you're shuffling in some backups here. So they went. Is Brandel? He's one of the backup guards, right? Like they went. They did a heavy package last night a couple times, and he was the guy that came off the bench for the heavy package too. So you can't even get in the game in a heavy package, or get active. Okay, Final Fantasy says, Judd is such a whine ass. I do like that he has high expectations for the team. I like the fact that he's not just rah-rah, everything is fine, because it's not. Let's try to sneak into the playoffs, etc. But my God, even after wins, he's so freaking miserable. They win, and Judd says, most disgusting game ever. They lose. He says the same thing. I think he's mad because they won. He wants them to lose every game.
No, that's not true at this point in time. I don't care. And you can't do this isn't basketball. You can't tank games. This is not a league where you can tank games. So no, I was disgusted by the fact though that the Steelers were terrible, that the Vikings, to their credit, put the boot on them 29-0, and then slowly but surely melted down. Yeah, I take no joy in that win. I take no joy in a win. You're coming off a loss to Detroit, and you go up by 29 points, and it's like, okay, it's go time now. And then you're like, oh, okay. No, I take no joy. I'm a whine ass about when I see things that disgust me. And I will remind you that the teams that I complain about, when they do play like they should play, I'm enthusiastic. Like, why are we trying to celebrate these small victories? Again, the Wild gives us a tutorial. Look at how miserable 4 years ago they were. Collection of just useless as a collection. So not as individuals, a collection of useless people together. They were a terrible team as far as the room went. They were just good enough not to be bad. Oh, we're not dead yet. You slept on us, right? And then guess what? They changed things. And now they're fun and they're really good. And I think they are a playoff contender. I think they could win a championship. Yes, I said that. Why should I celebrate last night's useless win by a group that's turned into the 2017 Wild because they won? Like, what's this whole thing about? Well, they won, you should be happy. No, I'm not happy.
Yeah, I think what's happening here is, like, I say this on the show from time to time, that there's the gap between expectations and reality is where the angst and frustration tends to lie. And I think what you're seeing here is the expectations set by the team, front office, coaches, players, and by us at the beginning of the year was much higher than where they're currently at. And so you're hearing Judd and me and Declan, sort of, we're angsty over, this was the expectation, but this is the reality, and we're punching in that gap. Listen, if you're a fan and you recognize that gap, but you're just like, they won a game and I'm going to enjoy my Thursday night and drink a Surly and celebrate for a minute without banging my head against the wall. That's fine. That's fine. All right. I don't care. But if you're wondering why Judd gets worked up, it's because he's holding this high bar for the Vikings above his head, and the Vikings aren't meeting it, and he is frustrated with the lack of meeting expectations.
But this team is underachieving with potential. Believe me, when the Minnesota Twins were running out those godforsaken pitchers last year and they lost, I wasn't that disgusted. because I'm like, that gentleman tried as hard as he possibly could, and he sort of just sucks. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm not disgusted. I feel like it's not fun, but I'm disgusted by groups of people that are complete pretenders. And these Vikings are pretenders because they have the potential to be good, and they showed that last night. And in the same fell swoop, just when I gave them the keys to the car, and they're like, okay, and they're driving 55. Now they wrapped it around a fence post because they were driving 95 after I trusted them.
Dude, they just showed a couple things on ESPN here. So the Harrison Smith, what an amazing play to knock that ball loose from Freiermuth. I mean, Freiermuth caught that ball, and
5% of my pie chart.
He caught the ball, he got a foot down, and Harrison Smith came in and knocked it away. It was an insane play. And then the next shot was Kirk Cousins walking with Jeff Anderson, who we've known for years, who heads up their PR department, and Kirk, so Jeff is like guiding Kirk probably to an interview of some kind, and Kirk looked like they just got beat 42-10. The look on his face was just like as downtrodden and angry as I've seen. And with Mike Zimmer's demeanor after the game too. I mean, they wore it like a loss. So it kind of tells you where they think they should be too, right? Like they won the game and they're still like, God, why are we doing this?
They wore it like I did.
They did.
They wore it like Judd. Wear it like Judd.
And then you wore that can of Surly late into the night last night. You got home at 1:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever the hell time.
I got done working at 3 o'clock, and I'm going to tell you right now, at 3 a.m., a guy can use a Surly. And especially after a game like that, let's not just say a Surly. All Surlys are good, but Surly Furious was appropriate. That's right. Surly Furious got me through that morning because I needed something to take the edge off. And ironically, a beer named Furious calmed me down so I could go to sleep. You too should go to your liquor store today before the snow flies, before the flakes fly too much, and stock up on Surly for the weekend. Big weekend of football still. Plenty of football to watch on Sunday, even though the Vikings aren't playing. Surly Furious. And as always, show us your cans at Jay Zolgad on Twitter. I appreciate all the people who did that last night. I got a lot of good pictures last night.
A lot of tall boys
at the stadium. Oh yeah, tall boy at the stadium.
I love me a tall boy.
Yeah, you know what?
It's good value.
And Scoggins too. Scoggins loves the tall boys. Surly Furious.
Okay, Kevin Fessler here, YouTube comment section. The Vikings hate to play from ahead, and it shows in every game. This game was different because they actually got up big, but once the Steelers got the first touchdown, it was game on, fall apart. Why does this team struggle so badly to play with leads?
Dex, you take this one.
It blows my mind. Yesterday, I think as we talked about in the pie chart of praise, I didn't look at what Clinton Kubiak did and was like, it's play calling. They're struggling with play calling. Your defense wilted, dude. Like, I don't know if it's that. I think it might have been more of a Zimmer was not scheming and not calling the right plays defensively. I don't know if that was playing too soft. As much as I love talking football, that's something Alex Boone, I'm sure, could definitely break down with us more, or someone who's also just a defensive mind. But it just seemed more like Zimmer just played super, super soft. And I think it was more the defense was to blame, where earlier this season when they would get into big leads or have at least a nice lead in the first half, Kubiak would wilt and run, nothing, we're not going to take any shots. The offense, I had no problem with the offense in the second half. It was all the defense being completely soft.
Yeah, they just, in general, they just I don't know, they just lack the ability to step on someone all across the board. It's a lot of just weak-minded everything across the board. And I keep going back to leadership. Whose team is this in the most important moments? And it's a game of hot potato. It's Kirk, I just work here guy. It's Zimmer. Well, I mean, the offense isn't my fault. And even after the game, like we played the clip on a couple different episodes the last couple days, it's Mike Zimmer saying, I keep trying to tell these guys how to close out games. He's like distancing himself from the ownership of it. Well, if what you're telling them isn't landing, either they're just not good enough at their jobs, which there's some of that, I'm sure, because they're playing a lot of backups lately. But if they're not responding to your coaching, then that is your fault as the head coach, not being able to communicate your message. Bad dad joke here on the YouTube comment says, biggest takeaway from last night, something was up with Justin Jefferson. He left a ton of catches on the field and looked defeated at times. A bad night or something to keep an eye on? There was a couple. Yeah, there was a couple more like.
I was at
moments.
the stadium, so it's hard. I can't see facial reactions, so I defer to you guys. I mean,
There's a couple moments.
Got a few, but I didn't pick up on a vibe there. But I mean, there's a bad vibe with the team, so it would make sense that might be affecting him.
Yeah, definitely a couple moments.
Yeah.
Okay.
He seemed more animated against the Lions, and that was like just pure frustration, not necessarily of his individual performance. But yesterday, he had plays he had to come down on. He absolutely did.
Yep. So, all right, boys. Well, that was an uplifting episode of comments from YouTube here. I mean, the Vikings are wearing this like a loss. Fans are wearing this like a loss, but it was a win, and they are 6-7. They've got a couple games against the Bears, and then they got the 2 games against the Rams and the Packers. So they probably need to go at least 2-2, more like 3-1 if they want to make the playoffs. There's like 7 teams within a game of each other between the 6 seed all the way down to like the 11 in the NFC right now.
And with that win, the Vikings are in the 8th seed in the NFC right now, right, Phil?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Real quick here, just so you have it. ESPN.com.
I believe they got up to 35% playoff odds after the win, and I'm sure that number will be skewed one way or another after Sunday's matchups.
Yeah, so they're 8th right now. They have a tiebreaker over the Eagles. It's like the 3rd tiebreaker. It's win percentage in common games because they both have the same conference record.
Yeah.
But between the 6, so Washington's in the 6th seed. They play Dallas, and then San Francisco's in the 7th seed. They're both 6-6. So you have 2 6-6 teams. And then from the 8 seed all the way down to the 12 seed, all of those teams have 7 losses. Some of them are 6-7. Some of them are not played, so they're 5-7. But then you also you got the Bears at 4-8. I don't think they're going to do damage, but, the Seahawks are 4-8, just beat San Francisco. They could rattle off a few wins if Russell Wilson gets hot and his hand feels good. Yep. So there's the Vikings are fighting with 6 or 7 teams minimum for those 2 wildcard playoff spots. So we'll see. One more month. I'm sure Judd will be very joyous throughout this last month.
Oh, yeah. 4 games left now. Yeah.
Yep.
17-game season. Yeah.
All right, boys. That's Purple Daily here. Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. It's quite simple. We're going to let Judd take a nap here soon. So, all right, we'll see you guys tomorrow on Purple Daily.